Now, VSLs are insanely powerful if you get them right, but the difficulty is getting them right. And let's be honest, what you want, because I wanted, is just a simple step-by-step template you can use to create the perfect VSL. I analyzed 100 funnels in prep for this video, and it turns out all the top performing VSLs actually follow the exact same structure and principle. So there is a perfect layout. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to build a video sales letter that most importantly actually increases conversions. You are going to get a step-by-step structure you can copy today. You'll also see how to film it, even if you hate being on camera. And I'm going to break down the biggest mistakes that people make that kill conversions before you even set your VSL live. So very, very high level, we are following this structure: emotion, then logic, then call to action. And the reason we do this is because we buy emotionally and then we justify logically. So that's the high level breakdown. Here's the step-by-step structure you use to structure your VSL. First, you want to call out your target audience so they know they're in the right place. This boosts retention for those in your ICP who you accurately describe and immediately disqualifies those who aren't. Then you need a headline that clearly explains either your offer, if you have one, or the outcome they're going to get if it's a training video. A VSL can be used to explain an offer directly or to share free training that then transitions into your offer at the end. So start with the headline, then a sub-headline should be underneath that that removes any doubts they might have after reading that headline. Next, you need to list the problem that they are dealing with. So before we talk about a solution, we need to show them that you understand the problem. And when you talk about the problem, you need to make sure you're speaking in emotional terms and ideally use the exact words they themselves would use. This is almost like a cold read. If they feel that you get what they're struggling with, they'll trust you to probably also have the answer too. So that's the key. Now, after that, we want to talk about what they actually want, their desires. So you show the situation they're stuck in, then you show where they want to go. Again, use their own words if you can, or describe it better than they could themselves. If they feel you get their pain and their goal, they will stay with you. Next, you introduce yourself. If you're a company, share some background on the company. If you're solo or you're like a consultant or something like that, you want to share your own story. The point here is to show that you were in the same spot they are now and how you made the jump to where they want to be. Tell the truth about that transition. The key here is setting a why behind everything, because this really builds trust. And a real story proves that you've been through what they're going through. It's proof you know what you're talking about. Next, you want to explain how that journey led you to the system or unique delivery mechanism that you're selling. Any good product or service should be built on something unique. So if you're a SaaS company, it's the tool that you've made. If you're a consultant or a coach, it's the unique system that you have built. You want to introduce that system now so they know why it exists. Then you want to move into explaining the benefits. Be really simple with this. What are the clear outcomes they're going to get if they use that unique delivery mechanism? So now we've got an emotional base, we can start the transition from emotion into logic. But before we show how it works, we need to explain why it works, because the why is always stronger than the how. And what this does is it locks them in. So you want this to be some sort of click for them, like a coin drop. You want to make the why logical, simple, and obvious. Usually it's something that they kind of know themselves, but they just haven't really connected or come to some sort of realization about. Your job here though is to make the why crystal clear. You almost want them to have this like, aha, it's so simple moment. Next, before you break down the steps, you want to start teasing results. So really quick proof that others have used your product or your system and have actually seen real results. This doesn't need to be long, it's just like screenshots or quick stats. Basically simple proof that people have walked the path and they've hit the outcome using your system. So now we finally get into the real logic about how it actually works. Now ideally this is 3 clear steps. For example, if your system solves 3 core problems, each step should fix one of those core problems. So as an example, let's say the main thing that we deal with is marketing. Now most people who struggle with marketing have 3 core issues. The first is their messaging off, the second is they don't really have a system to bring in leads, and the third is they struggle to close those leads. So your 3 steps would be clarify the messaging, bring in the leads, and then close the leads. It's really logical. So you've handled the emotion with story and now you're backing it up with logic. People buy on emotion, but they justify with logic. So this part matters, just walk them through each step clearly. Now, if your VSL is selling a done for you offer, you don't need loads of depth here. If, however, it's a free training or you're a coach or consultant, you can go a lot deeper into this how section and make it way more fleshed out. So at this point, you've built the emotion and you've grounded that in logic. Now you can finally start to ask for something. So this is where you add a really soft call to action. So after we've shown how the system works, we want to prompt them to take the next step, whether that be to book a call, schedule a time for that call, fill out a form, whatever you want them to do next, just keep it really simple. Then we want to add more proof, but this time we go deeper. So this time we're going to use a quick case study. It's not just they got results, but it's the situation they were in beforehand, what they did and where they got to. You want to pick an example where your audience will see themselves in, so it ties that system again back to reality. Next, we're going to have a really quick reset and remind them who you are, the outcome you help them get, and how you do it. All really short and clear. People often need to be exposed to a message at least 7 times before it sinks in. This is known as the rule of 7, which is why we repeat ourselves. So now we are truly in call to action pitch mode, and as a result, we will start to trigger some sales resistance from the person watching as we transition from that giving to asking. So to combat this immediate gut-wrenching feeling the viewer has of, oh, here comes the ask, we now present a guarantee to remove some of the risk. Maybe they can get started for free, or there's a trial or a money-back guarantee. It's whatever makes sense for you. Right after that, we do another clear call to action, tell them exactly what to do next to get the outcome, book the call, fill out the form, whatever it is. And finally, we loop back and reinstate what they'll get when they work with you. Name those same 3 outcomes, make sure they line up with the steps you shared earlier. That is your signature system. So to close it out, we're going to add a little bit of scarcity and urgency. People stall if there's no reason to act now. So we're going to tell them there's only a certain number of spots or a limited time. This can push them to act. Then you wrap up with one last prompt to take that next step, book the call, fill the form, whatever that is for you. And that is your VSL step by step. So that's the structure locked in. But how do you actually bring it to life without overcomplicating it? So this is how you properly film a video sales letter. The easiest way is to use a presentation. So think of it like giving a really short webinar. The structure I just walked you through can be your slides and your script at the same time. All you need to do is talk through the points whilst showing the slides. Now we build our presentations for VSLs in Canva, and to record, if you're on a Mac, I'd use a tool called Screen Studio. The video quality is great and it keeps everything really simple. The main thing is you want your video quality to be sharp, you want the slides to be really clear, and you want your audio to be clean. Now if you're using Screen Studio on a Mac, you can set your iPhone as the camera and you can connect a really good mic. We use these little wireless mics from Rode called the Wireless Go. DJI also makes good ones too. They plug straight into your phone and they clip to your shirt. Super easy and the sound is really solid. If, however, you are not on a Mac, it's okay. Any webcam will do. Just make sure it's a good one and pair it with a good microphone. And if you don't have Screen Studio, we found it's best to use Loom for these. If you go with Loom, make sure you use the desktop version. The quality is better than that of the browser version. And always make sure you're filming in full screen so you don't have any of the extra tabs or browser clutter showing. Just makes it look a little bit more professional. And one last thing, look into the camera and keep your energy up. If you need a few takes to get through without stumbling, just do a few takes. But the most important part, you can knock this out in one go and you shouldn't really need to edit it. And finally, your tone of voice should be calm, friendly, and positive. So think how you would speak to a friend over coffee. Now, before I go into the common mistakes people make, by the way, everyone makes these mistakes, so don't think you're the exception to the rule. Now is a really good time to hit that subscribe button. Now, why might you ask? Well, I have a reason. The reason is because every time someone subscribes, my editor Connor gets 1 rice grain closer to a full meal. Right now, he's working on about 800 calories a week, and he's editing with fingers so thin the Face ID on his iPhone thinks he's a skeleton. So if you don't subscribe, that is cool. Just know that you're actively choosing violence and also potential manslaughter charges, but you do you. It's on you. Oh, and I also realized I haven't introduced myself yet. I am John, the founder of MinMax Media. It's my mission to create the most simple, efficient, and effective client acquisition system possible and to help you by teaching you that system or installing it for you. If you want to learn more or apply to work with me, there is a link in the description. So you've got the filming sorted. Now here's where most VSLs fail. These mistakes are really simple and they're thankfully even easier to dodge. So the first big mistake is not sticking to the structure. Shock. People start adding extra bits or going off scripts. Don't do that, just stick to the plan. Next, the first section where you talk about your why or the story behind you or your company, people start making that really logical. They'll say things like, we've been in business for 10 years, or we've worked with 100 clients. That's not really what that part is for. You can get that in there, but that part is meant to be about emotion. It's about telling a real story or a journey that you've been on. So keep it human. It's essentially your hero story. Another mistake happens when you're actually presenting. So sometimes people come across a little bit flat, or they'll pause too much, or they'll keep stumbling over their words. If you need to do a few takes, just do a few takes. You'll probably find that you run through it once, come back later, and each time you get a little bit better. So don't be afraid to shoot it a few times and just keep improving. One extra tip, something we've been doing lately that works really well is using AI to write most of this for you. VSLs work best if you're speaking in the real language of your audience. If your messaging matches your ICP and you're putting your video in front of those right people, it will resonate. However, if the messaging is off or you're targeting the wrong audience, this won't work. So the best way we found to get this right is to record sales calls using something like Fireflies to get transcripts of closed deals. Then you want to run those transcripts through AI to pull out the exact language your buyers use. You can then train a GPT on that so it knows your ICP inside out, and then you can use that trained GPT to write the script and map out the funnel. That is, I'll be honest, probably the biggest tip. Just make sure you really know your audience and use AI the right way in terms of repeating their messaging back to them. So once you've dodged those mistakes, here's where most people still get it wrong. It's the when and where that they actually use the VSL. So this is the last thing to cover, it's context. Where should you actually use a video sales letter? Well, video sales letters work best after you've already captured the lead. That's not to say you can't use them earlier, but in most cases, if we're talking about a landing page on your main website, for example, you want a much shorter video there, something focused more on the pain point or a high level promise. A full video sales letter usually works better later in the funnel as a tool to build trust and warm people up before a sales call. So you can use it as a free training after someone fills out a lead form, or as a pitch page after they show interest in an offer. Now there are really two ways that you can use VSLs. The first, let's say you have a lead magnet or a form for an offer. Someone fills that form out, then they land on a page with the VSL. And at that point, the VSL is prompting them to book a call. Second, if you're using a landing page funnel, you capture the lead, then you immediately ask them to schedule a call, and then they see the VSL after they've booked that call. The whole point in that case is to warm them up so that when they show up to that call, they already know exactly what you do and they know how it works. So you can adjust how you use it, but in most cases, a VSL sits after the lead has been captured. You can use it in other ways, but these are the two ways that we run it. And before I go on, a really quick shout out to Jeremy Haynes. He's one of my mentors. I analyzed a load of different funnels in prep for this video, but everything I analyzed came back to basically what he taught me as part of his Hydra strategy. So I'd strongly recommend checking Jeremy Haynes out. Very, very talented, a lot of respect for him, and basically a lot of this stuff I learned from him, so massive props to him. Anyway, now you've got the structure and the tools to build the VSL that actually converts, but I'll tell you this, your VSL is just one piece. The real growth comes from what you're offering and the system that delivers it. So if you want to see how it all fits together, watch this video next. It is a complete breakdown of the system I have built called the Controlled Growth Framework. I'll show you the full framework that builds an acquisition system that keeps the pipeline full for free without you having to chase leads one by one. So I will see you over there.